The studio hummed with that quiet energy that always arrives just before a live conversation begins. The lights glowed warmly, cameras settled into place, and the audience carried that familiar mix of anticipation and ease, expecting charm, humor, maybe a story they could smile along with. Everything appeared routine, almost automatic, as if the day had been rehearsed in perfect calm. Yet beneath the surface, there was a subtle shift that no one could quite name. The guest sat quietly, hands loosely folded, gaze lowered for a fraction longer than usual. It wasn't a performance or a pose. It was human, a fleeting moment where the world outside and inside seemed to hold their breath together. And in that brief pause before any question landed, the room sensed it. Something slightly heavier than the usual evening energy had arrived, a feeling that demanded attention without asking for it. When silence speaks, when the host posed a simple question about love, the silence that followed felt almost sacred. It stretched just long enough to make people lean forward in their seats, caught in the tension of waiting, not knowing what would come next. Then came the answer, soft and careful, stripped of polish or performance. His voice was thoughtful, steady, and quietly earnest, the kind of tone that encourages listening instead of applause. There was no effort to entertain, no attempt to impress, only a willingness to speak truthfully. In that moment, silence did more than fill the room. It created a bridge between the speaker and everyone watching, reminding people that human honesty can be more powerful than charm or scripted moments. Honesty without an agenda. We rarely talk about how love can end, even when it's real, he said simply. The words were neither shocking nor dramatic, yet they landed with surprising weight. Perhaps it was because they were shared as lived experience rather than wisdom, advice, or caution. There was no smile to soften them, no joke to cushion the edges, just honesty, offered in a voice that invited reflection. Across screens and seats, people stopped what they were doing. The calmness of the tone drew attention effortlessly, and in that attention, the room collectively recognized something rare, truth without expectation. This wasn't a story to teach a lesson, it was a story to share a life. The pressure of being an example. For years, the public had seen him through a particular lens, one of reassurance, stability, and commitment. They interpreted his life as evidence that love could endure time and change, that relationships could survive challenges effortlessly. Smiles shared at events, public gestures of support, moments captured on camera, all suggested smooth continuity. Yet what he revealed quietly that evening was that love has dimensions no camera captures. The public sees only surfaces, smiles, celebrations, milestones. Behind the scenes are delicate negotiations, subtle adjustments, and the quiet recognition that people sometimes grow in different directions. These truths don't make love a failure, they make it real. Love that doesn't end as expected. I gave everything I had, he said, pausing, and so did the other person. There was no blame, no bitterness, only acceptance. Love, he explained, is not something that breaks because it is insufficient. Sometimes it changes simply because life changes the people in it. That idea rippled through the studio and across screens. Love can be profound, meaningful, and deeply felt, and still reach a natural conclusion. Hearing this, people experience a quiet relief, a sense that love doesn't need to be permanent to be valuable. It can exist fully and matter deeply, even if the story doesn't last forever. Recalling the beginning. As he spoke, memories surfaced for everyone listening, both his and the audience's. The first conversation that sparked connection, nights where time seemed to disappear, the comfort of feeling understood by another person. These recollections rose naturally, unbidden. Love often begins with certainty, a belief that what is found will remain constant. At the start, it feels permanent and undeniable. Time, however, has its own rhythm. It introduces chapters no one expects. It reshapes the story rather than erasing it. These beginnings, though sometimes far behind, linger as reminders of moments that were genuine and beautiful, regardless of what follows. Alone after the lights fade. Later, when the studio lights dimmed and the echoes of applause had faded, memories returned in private. Laughter, whispered promises, quiet gestures, all of it lingered in subtle ways. Love had shaped him, leaving traces that were not painful but deeply human. There was gratitude in those reflections, a sense that every chapter had mattered. He thought to himself, quietly and firmly, I am not diminished. I am changed. There was a peaceful acceptance in that thought, a recognition that experiences, even those that conclude, leave behind lasting depth and insight. The power of vulnerability. In the days that followed, letters and messages arrived from people he had never met. Some shared stories of relationships that had ended gently, with meaning intact. Others spoke of personal growth, reflection, and acceptance. The common thread was connection. By speaking openly about his own experiences, he had provided a way for others to articulate their own. Vulnerability, he realized, is a bridge between strangers. It fosters understanding and reminds people that none of us are alone in our feelings, struggles, or reflections on love and life. Redefining love. He came to understand that love does not always end in the way stories promise. Some love stories close with lessons learned. Some end in mutual respect. Some conclude with sadness that softens into clarity over time. None of these outcomes represent failure. Rather, they represent the reality of being human. Love retains its value even as it transforms, leaving growth, perspective, and the quiet memory of shared moments. Its meaning is not measured by longevity, but by depth, sincerity, and the impact it leaves on hearts. Carrying the lessons forward. As he stepped into the next chapter of his life, one truth remained. The end of a relationship does not signify failure, only the completion of a chapter. Love that is lived fully, openly, and honestly leaves a mark. It shapes the way we move through the world, the way we connect, the way we remember. And perhaps the most important lesson is this: the capacity to love bravely, to commit deeply, and to let go when necessary is a testament to resilience and courage. Love's meaning is in its existence, not only in its duration. Love that transforms. Even as relationships end, love continues to shape people's hearts and minds. The lessons, memories, and growth it brings remain integral to one's sense of self. He recognized that love's significance lies not in the duration, but in the depth, the honesty, and the courage it inspires. To love fully is to transform, to learn, and to leave behind a piece of oneself in the shared human experience. That understanding became a quiet anchor, a source of strength and compassion, reminding him that life's chapters, though impermanent, are never meaningless. They end as a beginning. He came to see that every ending is also a beginning. The close of a chapter allows space for reflection, for new experiences, for continued growth. Love, even when it changes form, prepares us for what comes next. It teaches resilience, empathy, and the ability to see beauty in impermanence. The memories, laughter, and shared moments remain, shaping future connections and guiding how one moves through life. Endings are not erasures, they are transitions that honor what has been while making room for what is to come. A message for everyone. Looking back on the conversation, the letters, and the reflections it inspired, he understood that the greatest gift of openness is connection. By sharing his own story without performance, without judgment, without expectation, he had offered others a way to name their feelings, to acknowledge their experiences, and to accept the impermanence of life's chapters. In a world that often demands perfection, he had chosen authenticity. And that choice, he realized, rippled far beyond the studio, reaching hearts in ways words alone cannot fully capture. The lasting value of love. Finally, he embraced a profound truth. Love's worth is never erased, even when circumstances change. Its value lies in its experience, in the courage to give fully, and in the way it shapes who we become. Love leaves behind clarity, growth, and the quiet satisfaction of having lived and felt deeply. Its impact continues long after the moments themselves have passed. And in that understanding, there is peace, acceptance, and a gentle celebration of life's beautiful, fleeting, and deeply human stories.